Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Live show, where together we discover what's going down around the underground scene with a focus on independent publishing. The date is December 4th, 2023, and this show is brought to you by yours truly, the man, broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google this name. And you can find out. Now I'd like to take this time, slide right inside my first segment of the night, where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. All right. Let's see who we have up first. We have from TJ Trimble. Just says thanks. Shares a link to their book. His book entitled Nevermore, which is an Edgar Allan Poe retold by TJ Trimble. Here is the blurb. A retelling of classic Edgar Allan Poe tales with a modernized twist. In this first installment, I take a new approach to 10 of his classic short stories and poems: The Mask of the Red Death, The Cask of Amontillado, and the ever-popular Telltale Heart, plus 7 more. So enjoy my modern take on these Gothic classics from the mind of the master, Edgar Allan Poe. So 89 pages here in this collection. Horror fiction classics, horror short stories. I wonder what he means by modernized twist. That tends to, especially nowadays, that tends to have a kind of a negative stigma attached to it. Nevermore. Okay, let's see who's up next. From Ian Grant. Looks like we're covering the Wiggins adventures, continuing the Wiggins adventures. In this installment, entitled The Gallery of Death, a DCI Wiggins adventure by Ian C. Grant. All right, there's the cover. Wiggins and Pike are back for a second installment in their series of Edwardian murder mysteries. London, 1913. The beast has been slain, but the city now faces an even greater peril. London reels under multiple nefarious attacks, including the threat of the deadliest of all diseases, the plague, returning to scourge her people whilst a crazed multiple murderer stalks her streets. Unspeakable atrocities threaten to rip the heart, not only from the families of DCI Wiggins and DS Pike, but also from the very realm itself. The Russian necromancer Luka Radisilev conjures forth demons and creatures of the night, whilst lunatics rise and an old enemy resurfaces to conduct a deadly vendetta intent on death and mayhem. Whilst the city quakes in terror and lesser men hope for salvation, two men fearlessly confront the dangers that threaten on all fronts. Pour the absinthe and hold on to your hat. If you thought the reign of the beast was thrilling, get ready for the jaw-dropping second installment of the DCI Wiggins series. Welcome to the Gallery of Death. 295 pages, serial killers, crime action fiction, mystery action fiction. Okay, I have one more for you tonight. Of course, all these books in this first segment are all suggested to me directly by the publishers themselves, whether they are self-published authors, a representative of an independent label, or from a small press company. And this next one comes from Adrita Goswami. She says, "Thank you." Shares a link to her book. Her book entitled Tia and the Terracotta Horse by Adrita Goswami. Okay. Tia, a little girl from the Indian town of Bishnupur, makes a terracotta horse. To her astonishment, the terracotta horse comes alive, but Tia must keep it a secret. They immediately become best friends. When the grown-ups take their afternoon siesta, the terracotta horse takes Tia on magical trips to some of the most beautiful places in India. Read the book to join the duo on their extraordinary trips. I like the alliteration in that blurb. 32 pages. Got a short story here. Looks like for children. 45-minute mystery, thriller, suspense, 45-minute literature, fiction short reads. I'm assuming it's for children. Kind of sounds like it's meant for children. Or all ages, I suppose. Sounds like a cute story. All right. And those are the books for this week, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're watching this on the replay, you know what the deal is. You can head on over to my community tab and cast your vote for which one out of those three books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. In other words, which one out of those three aforementioned titles would you be most likely to pick? And if you would like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my playlist tab and open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, there is a cover card that will reveal a book from the independent market that was recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich network. And inside the description section of each video, there is a link that will take you to an editorial written specifically on that book by yours truly. All right, moving right along here into some announcements. Okay. And I do have a special announcement to make this week. I have an update on a crowdfunding campaign I was in support of, and I am referring to Vigilantes Creed. And I actually had the creator, B.A. Turner, on the show earlier this year to talk about this project. We're talking about B.A. Turner's Vigilantes Creed.
It's urban fantasy, but it's also sci-fi. It's kind of a healthy mixture.
I heard Nazis were involved, and I was like, say no more.
Yep.
Take my money. And I am pleased to announce that I did indeed receive my Vigilantes Creed Indiegogo backer bundle. That's right. So let's see what I got here. Now, first, it did come with some extras. It came with like a couple bookmarks, some art prints, and also a trading card. But the main purpose of the, well, I'm assuming the main purpose of the crowdfunding campaign was to fund the mini comic that he called the mini comic here, which is featuring the artwork of Corey Barton, which does, if you can see that, he does look like quite a talented artist, I have to say. So let's take a look at this booklet, shall we? Just get a little sneak peek of what's going on inside here. Let's see if I can do this. So basically, this was explained to me as basically like supplemental. This is supplemental work to the novels themselves. So basically, best way to explain is it's like basically it's just depicting scenes that take place, you know, specific scenes that take place between both of the novels. And then it kind of has like these annotations here explaining like, you know, some of the artifacts or whatever that are in the story themselves. And some of the characters, some stats, if you will, or some info on the characters. And one that I'd like to point out is this one right here. I got a kick out of this, but you can see at the top, it says book 1. So this comes from book 1, chapter 1, pages 4 through 8. It's like talking about this scene taking place right here. But anyway, so there's this character right here, Rachel Winston. And it says her species, human, you know, just giving some information, her height, her weight, her age. And I got a kick out of this. It says abilities, and it says none. None. You mean to tell me she's not even able to do a little housekeeping, you know, a little cooking, a little cleaning? Nothing? Suppose those would probably fall under skills, though, right? But apparently you look at her skills, and she has nothing of note except skills is stealing Slade's heart. And then under miscellaneous, it says key motivator behind Slade's thirst for vengeance. So you're telling me that the main character is willing to risk it all for this broad? I mean, She's cute, but maybe he just needs to get out more. That's all. So that's the booklet in a nutshell. So let's check out the novels. So you get 2 novels. I got 2 novels on this one. So we have the first novel in his series here. I'm not sure if this is going to be a duology. I can't remember if he said this is going to be a duology, a trilogy, or an ongoing series. But the first one here is called Of Blood and Stone. So Vigilantes Creed, book 1. Kind of just get an idea of what it looks like on the inside there. No illustrations inside the book, but it does have a this wraparound cover, this cover art also by Corey Barton. And then also book 2. Oh yeah, and that first one was like over 230 pages. And then book 2 here is called Mortal Defiance. And this one comes in about 250 pages. So those are the novels. So shout out to B.A. Turner for reaching his crowdfunding goal, but also, and more importantly, for seeing his project all the way through to completion, then focusing his effort on fulfilling the promises he made to those who chose to support him. So congratulations on a job well done as far as that goes. All right. Let's keep things moving, shall we? How about we check out the Storytellers Society? The Storytellers Society, still accepting open submissions. This is a public collaborative project, basically an outreach program, really, for my peers in the writing community. What I'm looking for is flash fiction for this project. Flash fiction for this project is fiction that is between 500 all the way up to 2,000 words. This can be fiction that you actually have published somewhere else, so long as you own the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish it on my blog, where it will be free for public viewing from now and indefinitely. Just because you submit something doesn't mean that your work will automatically be published. It does need to be approved, but if approved, then you'll effectively book yourself a room at what I've dubbed the Hotel del SS, where all the members of the Storyteller Society stay. Yep. Okay, and now it's time to get into some hot topic for content creators. Hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you, and then you turn around, create your own content on said topic, or else you're always welcome to jump into the conversation by dropping your comments down below and or checking out any of my previously pitched hot topic videos. And this week we are talking about indie author folly. Indie author folly. This has to do with calling out the business practices, marketing strategies, or public relations that we've observed within the indie scene that have made us cringe? Yes, that's right. And tonight, I need to address a couple things that really get under my skin within the indie scene, and both of which are derived from people who lack business acumen. The first one has to do with so-called publishers who aim to take advantage of writers. The indie scene is known for being a place where individuals can express themselves and appreciate art and entertainment that provide contrast to what they are used to seeing from the mainstream corporate industry. Now, just because the indie scene is known for harboring artistic freedom doesn't mean that artists from the underground want to work for free. It's not uncommon for indie artists to participate in peer-to-peer nonprofit collaborations or donate work to charity projects, but there's a big difference between doing that and being taken advantage of by predatory business models designed to fleece the desperate and the naive. I'm talking about the for-profit business ventures of third-party publishers. Many of these so-called publishing houses operate as a glorified DBA, aka independent label, better known within the scene as a vanity press, which basically just means they represent the author in terms of marketing, but may also handle some of the business activities associated with publishing. However, sometimes these publishers may actually be a small press company that plays a role in the creative process as well. My issue isn't that these publishing houses exist, because there are plenty of indie labels and small press companies within the underground that run respectable businesses. So allow me to offer some perspective. If a publisher expects me as a creative writer to not only trade my time, talent, and expertise, but also lend credence to their project by putting my name on the line, then there's one thing that they need to get straight right out the gate. They need to understand that money talks and bullshit walks. If the publisher's intention with their project is to profit off my work and gain credibility from my name by using it to build their business, then they need to show me that they are not only capable, but willing to provide proper compensation. This is to say, showing their appreciation by putting their money where their mouth is. If the publisher truly believes in their product, then they should have absolutely no problem appreciating all the work that goes into it. This is literally business ethics 101, which is why I have no problem telling someone to go take a hike if they offer less than the industry standard rate. And for those of you who don't know, it is currently at 5 to 6 cents per word. Mind you, that's the entry level rate, which might cover content intended for periodicals like newspapers or magazines, and maybe manuscripts from writers who are less experienced and or lacking any kind of reputation. So to all you indie publishers out there playing make-believe, I'll tell you right now that any creative writer who's worth their salt, which is to say that they take the craft seriously and truly value their work, is highly unlikely to sell themselves short. I'm not saying there aren't any writers within the indie scene that would be okay with that. I mean, there's a sucker born every day. But the phrase, "you get what you pay for," comes to mind. You know what I mean? Any writer who knows what they're worth is not going to accept anything less, especially if the editor of the project plans on publishing that work alongside stuff submitted from low-rent hobbyists. My point is, The way in which you lead your business sends a message, and any experienced professional will have no problem connecting the dots and figuring out who's the real deal. The moves that people make not only say something about their principles, but for individuals who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, will be able to decipher the driving force that's motivating an individual's business activity. Sometimes you don't even need a background in business ethics in order to recognize when someone's taking you for a ride, because some people seem to think that using the word transparency adds some inherent value to their business philosophy. I would argue that some people are transparent to a fault in that regard, because sometimes it feels like I'm listening to a villain monologue instead of someone pitching a creative project. I'm just sitting there munching on popcorn as they reveal every detail of their diabolical scheme to profit off the creativity of artists for literally pennies on the dollar. If only more creative writers knew what was good for them, then they would take 2 minutes out of their day and do the bare minimum when it comes to due diligence, aka a quick Google search. Perhaps then they would come to the same conclusion I did a long time ago and realize that some publishers are just out to blatantly and flagrantly rip them off. But maybe some creative writers have no sense of artistic value, let alone business acumen. Which brings me to the second cringeworthy aspect related to this hot topic, and that is self-published authors who do not understand how to set a listing price and properly manage their product. Yes, product management is a thing, even if you are selling as an indie. I've seen quite a few self-published authors over the years make absolute fools out of their supporters by screwing around with the listing price of their books and mismanaging their product. I don't think these authors realize how disrespectful they are being to the individuals who believed in their little passion project and bought a copy of their book at the original asking price. Fast forward a few months or maybe a year down the road, and those same supporters are now discovering that the little-known author that they chose to support with their hard-earned money decided to turn around and rip the fucking rug right out from underneath them by lowering the listing price of their book or giving the damn thing away for free. So much for the secondary market. Whether or not these authors/publishers know that it's disrespectful to their supporters and harmful to the market doesn't matter, because the former suggests that they really don't care and it's just about getting product into as many hands as possible with no regard to diminishing returns. And the former is to admit that they didn't take the time to sit down and think things through, which means they put no effort into preparing a business plan. I can only assume that these authors/publishers are just imitating what they think they know based on what they've observed from big box corporate retail chains. They lower prices to move product, so that means I should lower prices if I feel like moving product. And therein lies the issue. Corporate retailers are divorced from the products that they sell. The products on the shelf hold no sentimental or artistic value to them. Retailers, distributors, and vendors are all in the business of moving product and maintaining inventory. When they need to clear shelf space for new inventory, they will put on a clearance sale. They couldn't care less about the cultural significance or any sentimental values surrounding the products that they put on clearance. So when a customer comes along and buys a product from that specific store running the clearance sale, then they get to buy the product at a discount. A discount based on what, you may ask? Based on the MSRP, aka the manufacturer's suggested retail price, aka the listing price that's recognized among all the retailers who choose to carry the product. That is, until they need to clear some shelf space for whatever reason. Maybe the product isn't selling very well in that particular region. If you are a self-published author, understand that in this context, you are primarily playing the role of manufacturer, who just so happens to double as a product manager by default. However, you are not the retailer, distributor, or vendor. That's Amazon's position if you're using KDP for your books. The exception to this would be if you buy stock in your own product in the form of physical copies, and you take it upon yourself to sell those books. In that case, you are putting yourself in a position where you are in charge of storing and handling inventory. But not only that, you are also putting yourself in a position where you are now the merchant responsible for customer service, meaning you are liable for the distribution of the product and dealing with the customers directly, which comes with its own host of challenges and skill sets required to not only keep the ship afloat, but also keep you from losing your mind. But I digress. The purpose of having a business plan, even as an author or artist, is to literally know your role and how to stay in your lane. How many times have you seen someone involved with the indie market say, I have no idea what I'm doing, as if that's supposed to be cute or something to be proud of? Inexperienced people will flounder because they waste so much time throwing shit at the wall just to see what sticks, instead of investing their time in coming up with a coherent plan of action that they can follow through on. These are individuals who have a bad habit of consistently biting off more than they can chew, and then they wonder why it's so difficult for people to take them seriously. I understand it can be difficult to assign a purpose to your creative endeavors, because trying to rationalize something that is deeply expressive, sentimental, or valuable to the soul is easier said than done. It's very difficult to quantify an artistic experience, but I would say that coming up with a business plan for your creative projects has less to do with the end goal than it does with planning your approach. In other words, what can you do that works for you while taking into consideration your comfort level with this or that and the resources that you have access to, but also avoid getting into precarious situations or writing checks your ass can't cash. I suggest that you never make any business related commitments that do not include an exit strategy, because that's exactly how you end up doing things you may not want to do in the long run. But if you quit, then you'll look like an asshole, or at best, unreliable. So these are just some things that to think about before you decide to turn your creative endeavors into business ventures. And feel free to let me know what you think. Go ahead, leave me a comment, weigh in on this hot topic if you think there's something else that needs to be said. All right. Now let's wrap things up, shall we? check out the comments. All right, so this past week, I got a couple comments from Ben Pick from Running to Write, and this first one's on the art in AI, part 25 in that hot topic conversation. And Ben writes, he says, AI is going to be a touchy subject. Yeah, no shit, huh? It's definitely it's becoming quite an emotionally charged topic, I have noticed. And I do see it as a more effective search option. Oh yeah, because we were talking about, I was watching someone else's video, and he was talking about how he uses generative AI as basically as a search function, like a Google or something like that. He says, Ben says, I think it could work as a resource to bounce ideas off. I have writing friends that I do the same with. However, they are just one person or a small group of people. Oh yeah, and also the guy was also talking about using the generative AI or gay tech to bounce ideas off of and like try, almost like, I don't know. To me, it almost sounded like he was using it as if it was like a writing buddy or something like that. And I said, well, you got to watch out, because there could be like precognitive biases as far as that goes. The puppet masters who pull the strings behind the data sets and whatnot. But Ben goes on to say, however, whereas AI can combine large repositories of data to get a more robust answer, I just need to be aware of the biases and mistakes in the results. Yeah, the mistakes too. I don't think there is a good answer, especially as I am feeding the algorithms with more data and information about how it can be used. Thanks for stopping by, Ben. Weighing in on that. This is from last week's live show. Ben says, I like the rims on a POS car metaphor. Yeah, that's in regard to last week's hot topic where I was talking about book covers. Yes, merit versus market and book covers. What do you think about book covers, huh? And I said, I made the metaphor that some of these book covers, how they look extremely gaudy looking, almost as if it's like trying to make up for something, you know what I mean? And then I made the metaphor that it's kind of like putting fancy rims on a cheap vehicle. Ben says, that being said, I think authors need great covers for their books. Do they though? Do they really? Have you seen what's on the New York Times bestseller lists? But then again, you could say something about New York Times bestseller list as well. But then again, you could also look at Amazon bestseller lists and look at some of those book covers. I argue that really all you need is just some good, graphic design. If you've just got some good graphic design on there, that will work just fine. 9 times out of 10. But I guess it also depends on your genre too, right? So like fantasy, people who read fantasy, they gush over book covers. They are in love with their book covers. So I'd say, yeah, like if you're in fantasy, then that's really has to do with the customer demographic, the reader base. They expect fancy or fantastical covers, if you will. But me, I really don't give a shit about covers. I mean, yeah, I mean, a great cover is a great cover. I won't deny that. But yeah, so let's see what Ben says. Ben says, mine are on Amazon, so most people will be glancing at it on a page of 30 plus other novels. They need to hint the covers. The book covers need to hint at a vibe, theme, moment from my stories in a way to attract potential readers in less than a second. Yeah, like eye-catching. If it's eye-catching, sure. All that extra stuff, all that other stuff, like capturing the vibe, theme, or a moment from your stories. I mean, that's subjective. But yeah, I mean, I guess I know where you're coming from. That's what you like to see in a book cover, I'm assuming. I mean, there's plenty of like, and you're in sci-fi, right? I mean, there's sci-fi covers that, well, I think sci-fi is kind of in the same vein as fantasy in the sense that sci-fi covers, at least the old school sci-fi covers of like, 60s, 70s and stuff like that, usually have like some artwork, some fancy kind of artwork on there that kind of shows like a scene from the book or something like that. But you say, unfortunately, despite the saying, we do judge books by their cover. And I will say that basically, yeah, I mean, on a subconscious level, but that's why I say, really, if it's eye-catching, what is considered eye-catching? I did mention that. Like, what is considered an eye-catching cover? Does it have to have a Norman Rockwell in order to sell? And I was saying no. Like, really just, if it's some graphic design, you could have some really nice looking graphic design that is simplistic but effective. Like, simplistic but eye-catching at the same time. But anyways, he goes on to say, I also hate the updated book covers for a TV show, movie, or video game. Yeah, the cross promo book covers. It's when a book gets a movie or TV show adaptation, and then they release a new edition of the book that advertises the movie or the TV show with whether it be showing the actors on there, like, the graphics of the TV show or whatever. He says, I'm a much bigger fan of any of the classic Lord of the Rings and Song of Ice and Fire cover than a version with an actor pasted across the front. So there you go. Yeah, my thing was like, well, what if the adaptation is shit? What if you don't care about the adaptation? And now every time you go to look at the book on your bookshelf, you're reminded of that subpar adaptation. Well, that's the live stream for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But guess what? I will be back here for you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.
This offended my sensibilities.